Welcome back to the VLGA Connect Summer Series Best of collection. We're going back to July for this trip down memory lane where we spoke with Greg Wilson, the outgoing Local Jobs First Commissioner in Victoria. The Commission works to promote the employment of apprentices, cadets and trainees on government projects and oversees compliance of local content in contractual arrangements for project delivery. We talked to Greg about that work and how local government can be more involved. Greg, welcome to VLGA Connect.
Thanks, Chris.
A pleasure to meet you. You've got an extraordinary background in the public service. You understand how the sector works. Can we just start with a little bit about your background before you took on this role on a short-term basis?
Yeah, well, basically, I've had just over 40 years in the Victorian public sector in different forms or another. I started straight out of high school at the good old Melbourne Metropolitan Board of Works, and then progressed through the ranks there in the various departments and what have you. And more recently, I've been the Secretary of the Department of Justice for 5 or 6 years, and before that, Secretary of what was then Department of Sustainability and Environment for 3 or 4 years. And now I'm the Chair of the CFA, the TAC, the SES, and a few other roles, as well as this acting role, which I'm really pleased to be in at the moment.
One wonders where you find the time to do all of that at the moment, but this is, as you say, an acting role for a few months. So we should recognise that the last commissioner has retired and there's a process underway to fill the position.
Yeah, Don Matthews, he was the inaugural commissioner. So the role was created in August 2018 with the Local Jobs First Act, which essentially combined on if listeners would recall, they'd certainly be aware of the Victorian Industry Participation Policy, which was 2003, and then the Major Project Skill Guarantee Initiative, which was 2016. So the Local Jobs First Act effectively combined those two and said that the Local Jobs First policy, and then that created the role of the Commissioner, to advocate for the policy, to promote it, to do monitoring and compliance and a range of other things. So Don Matthews was the inaugural chair, but as you mentioned, he's now retired. So I've stepped in for a few months to help out, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a great role to have, and it's got a really, really worthwhile purpose. So yeah, enjoying it.
So tell us a bit about the purpose of the commission, and who are the stakeholders that you're mostly looking to influence and engage with?
The Commission's role is to actually, as I say, promote the policy and ensure compliance with it. So I guess we start with the overall policy. So the intent there really is to, in a bigger picture sense, to grow local jobs, to grow local industries, and to do that by basically giving them a fair go at actually applying for tenders and making sure state government agencies, which is the coverage of the policy, are aware of local capability and all that sort of stuff. So it's so that's the kind of intent of it, or the objectives. And the Commissioner was created really to give that a bit more oomph, for want of a better expression, just to make sure that the government's quite serious about compliance with the policy. So there's a couple of, I guess, from my point of view, there's a formal role in actually advocating for small, medium enterprises, and then there's a sort of awareness role of actually dealing with all the various government agencies to make sure their procurement people, the major projects people, the people running tenders and so on, are aware of the policy. Unions have a strong voice at the table as well. So it's interesting, do round tables and so on. We've had one with steel fabricators or others, unions and small businesses together, really keen to actually promote the policy and achieve its objectives of local jobs and building that competitiveness in our local industry. So it's great to see that sort of alignment. So they're the sorts of people that I'm engaging with, as I say, just to promote the awareness of the policy and then who's who and how they could navigate their way through some of those government processes and so on.
I note that I think next month it's 3 years since the Commissioner actually took office. How do you, as a Commission, measure the impact you've had over those 3 years, Greg?
Yeah, we have a 3-year strategy, and as you can imagine, as a new organisation, so the remit only starts with projects that actually, the tender process kicked off after August 2018. So it's kind of been the immediate focus of what we're trying to achieve is really awareness and advocacy and so on. As I say, unions, small, medium enterprises and the government agencies, so they actually understand the policies, producing things like model contracts and industry development plans and what have you. So it takes a little while for projects to be up and running until you then get into that phase of monitoring and measuring and auditing, because of the long lead times, particularly in some of the major projects. But we now have over 100. Well, the Act distinguishes between standard projects and strategic projects. So strategic projects are 50 million plus, and they have minimum specified local content, and the minister must specify particular percentages that are greater than those minimums. So we now have over 100 of those in our remit. And then standard projects, $1 million and above in regional Victoria and $3 million and above in Melbourne. We have over 2,300 of those. So it's actually growing and growing, but we're measuring our performance, I guess, by implementing strategies that raise awareness and so on. And then gradually we'll get into that audit phase, which is now more of a programmatic thing where, a bit like the Auditor General, you have a program of audits that you're doing, but now we actually have things that we can actually audit because the project's actually now up and running and underway. So yeah, we're kind. My sense is there's still, which is why these opportunities are great. There's still a lot of work to be done in just growing the awareness of the policy, how everything works and how people can best comply, particularly agencies where you want them, right at the beginning to understand all these requirements, not halfway through a tender process and someone points out, oh, hang on a sec, there's the local jobs first requirements that you've overlooked. So that's been our efforts to date. But, so far so good. It's been very constructive.
What about from the local government perspective, Greg? As you know, local government, they deliver a lot of projects, they employ a lot of people. Most have, targets for providing for local businesses and to generate activity in the local economy. Is local government covered under your remit?
No, it's not. So it's basically state. I think it's agencies under the Financial Management Act, the public sector agencies under the state government. I guess my experience in many years in the state government with local government is that most local government actually would fully embrace the policy objectives. Like as a place-based organisations that are, they have the economic development imperatives. They want to see local industry grow. So my sense is that local government's not formally under the remit, but they're actually, from my experience, embrace the policy objectives that we have. So it may be more of, what we can do for local government in terms of resources and things like that to help them actually pursue those objectives. So there's the website, Local Jobs First, one word, at vic.gov.au has things like model, like say, for example, the requirement to have, tenderers must have a local industry development plan. So they've got to show the government agency how they're going to grow local jobs and involve local industries and, percentages of local content. Those model kind of plans and things like that are on the website. There's all sorts of other guidance in terms of schedules that state government agencies would put in tender documents to prescribe local content, things like that. So, and there's things there like examples of projects and stuff like that that local government might find useful, and all the contact details and so on. If anyone wants to get in touch with my office or the department, those details are there as well.
I think that's a really great suggestion to be able to share those resources because, as you say, local government would absolutely embrace what you're trying to achieve at a much broader level, and are often challenged by this need to serve locals and challenged by the boundary of what do you describe as local. For you, I guess the definition is more statewide is local. Would that be right? It's
Victorian, and similarly, I find there's an awareness thing for all the different state government agents like TAFEs and hospitals and all sorts of things, but also some of the small, medium enterprises, trying to navigate your way through all the various government opportunities and things like that. They don't have the big resources of some of the top tier construction firms, so there's a role to play there. So I'm finding a lot of value add in this role is actually just joining up the dots a bit and making people aware of various opportunities and how things work, and happy to do that for those in local government that are interested as well.
The impact of COVID, Greg, does that in a way sort of help you achieve what you're trying to do, because there's less movement across state borders and less certainty around, where people are going to be able to move?
Yeah, well, it's certainly been a big impact on, things like supply chain, logistics and those things. And I guess, different industries have different impacts, but you certainly get the sense, particularly just from our own knowledge, privately, the building industry, for example, and, trying to find a bit of structural pine anywhere. It's like it's just seems to have gone crazy. So,
right.
that may actually help in a way, Chris, but I suspect, I don't know, the overall impacts on employment and things like that, it's just been a pretty tough 18 months, hasn't it?
Absolutely, it has.
Yes.
Greg, you're acting in the role. I think your term is I think you're due to finish this month, aren't you? So I know it's not your announcement to make. There'll be an announcement about a new commissioner shortly, but what's going to be next for you, do you think?
Well, I think I'll just head back to my various board roles and things like that, Chris, and see what comes about. And of course, if with recruitment processes, they may take longer, and I'm more than happy to stick around in the role and do my bit to help with the achievement of those local jobs first objectives.
Greg, there's an enthusiasm in your voice I can hear for this role. So, I think that's a bit infectious. So thank you for sharing some of that with us today. As you mentioned, you've got some resources that might be of use to local government. So you mentioned there's a website and some contacts there. And if people in councils would like to learn from that or cross-pollinate with ideas, you're open to them making contact, which is great.
Absolutely. And thanks for the opportunity this morning, Chris.
We hope you enjoyed that look back on one of the highlights of the year 2021 on VLGA Connect. There's more to come from our summer series Best of collection. I hope you can join us again soon.